Warning. This episode contains adult language and adult humor. Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults? If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. My guest for this episode is Aaron Washington. Aaron is a young man who has discovered a passion for the trumpet, jazz, and education. Like so many others, Aaron started down the road of traditional music education only to realize its limitations and reach. So Aaron hit the shed to develop his social media chops. Now his tutorials have racked up millions of views, and Aaron helps thousands of young players every week. So pour yourself a big glass, pull up a chair, and let the hang begin. All right, welcome to this episode of the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. I am Jose Johnson, and I am joined for this episode by Mr. Aaron Washington. What's up, Aaron?
Hey, Jose. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, man, thanks.
Big fan of the show.
Oh, thanks. I'm a big fan of your work, too. This is not a slight in any way, shape, or form. I've been blessed enough on this show to have some of the most stellar names in the trumpet world. People like Wayne Bergeron, Jerry Hay, Gary Grant.
Yes.
And people may be going, "Well, who's this Aaron dude?" And so I want them to know you because, I mean, you're doing some really phenomenal stuff. And I'm really, really impressed with the work that you're doing in terms of your work as an educator and your utilization of social media, and I want to dive into that stuff. But you've got a lot of stuff going on. So for people who don't know you, what are you going to tell them? Who is Aaron Washington?
Oh man, and I'm just a regular schmegular trumpet player. Like, you're right in saying that, because I feel like, man, all these guys were on this show, and like, man, who am I? So, but I appreciate you bringing me on, and but who am I? I'm a guy from the south suburbs of Chicago, living with a single mother. She paved the way to allow me to be who I am today, like just a trumpet player and educator. So big ups to my mom for allowing me to just do whatever and just believe in me to play the trumpet, to teach trumpet, to go to school for music. So I'm very grateful. And but my philosophy is just like teaching is my bag. Like, that's just a gift I think God just has given me, and I just wanted to give it to as many people as possible, because information changes situations, and it has changed situations for me in so many ways. So I just want to share that love of just spreading information and making sure people know what to do, how to do it, and everything in between. So
yeah, well, that's really important because, is we look at our trumpet heroes. A lot of them are just they're phenomenal. The things that they can do on the horn, the creativity, but with a lot of people, you ask them like, well, how do you do what you do, and they can't tell you. It's just
exactly.
They haven't figured out how to do it, or maybe they are aware of what they're doing, but their communication skills aren't the greatest. So being a teacher, I've been a teacher pretty much all of my life in various aspects. And to me, that's the most gratifying thing, is to be able to take something and share it with someone, and then watch them gather that information, process it, and then be able to take it and move forward and make their life a little bit better. So, what got you started with your love for teaching?
I was just thinking back to, it all started just being really lazy. believe it or not.
Yeah, gotcha.
And in high school, I hated marching band. I mean, I did not like marching band at all. So what did I do? I auditioned to be a drum major. So I was like, well, I really don't want to march. All I want to do is just be that guy up there that just waves his hands and
Yeah.
says commands, and so doing that, I got the job of being a drum major, and it wasn't until my senior year I was able, because I was really flexible in my schedule so I was able to assist the new band director that came and was the head of the program. And she really saw my capability of just being a leader and being a teacher, because I would lead I would assist her in the other bands, like the freshman band and the sophomore band, and lead their groups. And she was like, "Hey, you should probably go to school for teaching. You're pretty good at this." And the best university to go to is her alma mater, and now my alma mater is Illinois State University. So that's where I got my love of teaching, just from being lazy. Just I didn't want to march, and so just through that, I was able to really hone my teaching and leadership skills.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
drum major too, and yeah, that was those were fun times. And, but where's you said your mom raised you single mom.
Yeah.
Was she into music, or was she a musician herself?
No, none of my family members are musicians or it has anything to do with music. They just love music. They love R&B, they love rap, they love funk. So I didn't growing up, hear I didn't really pay attention to trumpet or any like instrumental sounds. My mom, we were listening to Tupac, Biggie, uh, Jodeci, just like R&B at the time, and so that's what I was attuned to. And up until I got to sixth grade, we had moved to a different area, and they had band, and so that was my sixth grade. And I was like, that's interesting. I think I might do that. I was really interested. Um, so yeah, I forgot the question, but
Music
but
in the
yeah.
family. Music in the family.
Yes, yeah, music in the family. No, music in the family. I just started music only because I thought it was interesting, because in prior grades there were no band programs. So once I moved to a different area, I saw they had a band program. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll start that.
Yeah.
I just did it.
Oh, that's cool. Um, when you got started, I mean, what got you going on the trumpet?
Um, the trumpet was the first and the only instrument I tried out. Only because of had three buttons. I was like, okay, well, that's pretty easy enough. Again, I'm a lazy person. So I was like,
Exactly.
it can't be what's so hard about the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked it.
That same
The
mistake
guy
too.
that was the guy that was there, I was able to make a sound. He was like, "Oh, you're a natural." I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I don't have to try anything else. I'll just do this then." So
Yeah.
that's the extent of my story with the trumpet.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of the beauty of what I'm trying to accomplish with this podcast is,
Yeah,
introducing people to all kinds of different people and different perspectives. And, for years I thought that I was weird because the reason I picked the trumpet was because I only had three keys.
exactly.
It was that laziness. And it's
Right,
really refreshing to find out that there are other people that made that same stupid decision.
right,
But it's seeing that that we're not as different as people want to think. Other people are different. Whether it's because of geography or race or religion or anything like that. our brains all tend to work the same way. So I think a lot of people were going to relate to that story and a lot of the other stuff that you're going to say. I mean, especially like, like I grew up in a family where my father was, when he was younger, was a professional musician. He was a minister when I was born. So I had music in my life, from the get go. And other people you talk to that, their parents are musicians or they encourage them and, all that sort of stuff. But, there are a lot of people that it wasn't, and it was just something they kind of stumbled on. And I think that the ability to relate to situations like that, if you're somebody sitting in a house in the middle of, Iowa or something like that, and it's like, well, I don't have anybody in my family that's a great musician or, all that sort of stuff. But then you can speak to them on a level that other people can't. So, I think that's a really cool part of what you do is speaking to people and kind of reaching them where they're at. So
Exactly.
let's move into like what you're doing with all of your social media stuff. I mean, you're all over the place, man. You got YouTube, you've got Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, I got it all.
You got it
And
all.
I have it all. And, I follow, like probably everyone else, follows Gary Vaynerchuk. And so
Yeah.
he says, get on all these platforms and figure out what they're about. And that was the goal because I wanted to know where my audience was and how they looked at social media, how they use social media. And yeah, so I made it a point to really study each and every platform. So even before YouTube, I spent the summer, like it was 2016. So I was just about to go to grad school. And I had already gone to this conference called led by a CD Baby. It was the first ever conference they had. It was in Chicago, and so that was like October of 2015, and they said a lot about marketing. So you really had to get your marketing chops up because at the time my focus wasn't teaching. My focus was I want to play. So that was more of a musician conference, and so I prepared myself up until graduation I had my website together, I had my EPK together, I had my bio together and all that. And so the next piece was how am I going to let people know that I exist? So I was studying YouTube for the entire summer. When I graduated up until I got to grad school. And I studied all the ins and outs of YouTube, how to make a thumbnail, keywords, descriptions, titles, all that. What makes a good video? And I spent all that time and I produced my first video September of 2016. And at first, it didn't really do much, like on YouTube, because YouTube is very finicky that way. Like it takes a long time to grow. Because it deals with keyword search and SEO, and SEO is search engine optimization. So, but that same video that I put on Facebook, that really blew up to like 12,000 views in like a day or so, and I was like, what? Like why is this blowing up so much? And then also YouTube was like at the time it was just like 10 views at the time. But those two platforms work differently, and I had to figure out why those platforms work differently. So
Yeah, well, that's we're in this new environment, and especially now COVID has just completely started to change the landscape of how we do things. And as more things go virtual, whether it be virtual performances, there are a lot of people that are doing that. Actually, like my friend, former guest on my show, Mr. Danny Falcone from Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Santa Fe's band is, if you don't know Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns, you need to check it out because that's a bad horn playing in that group. But they're a Las Vegas-based band, and since Vegas is basically shut down, they started doing live streams, and they're
Yeah.
charging. They're monetizing those events. They're not just putting that stuff up for free completely, but they're adopting and adapting to the new environment. And I think a lot of people, old cats like me, sometimes struggle to keep up with the changes in technology, and we sometimes look at technology as being the enemy instead of figuring out how to utilize it to better suit what we're doing. And especially if you're producing content, whether it be musical content or educational content, or I do a lot of motivational and mindset content, things like that. Social media is the way to get it out there. So where did you go to? What were some of the resources that you used to get you into this, or was it just like I'm just diving in the deep end and figuring it out as I go along?
It was a little bit of both, and your take on just the more mature generation not really accepting technology. That's the case for even people my age. Like they don't really mess with social media and think it's like all evil. I'm like, bro, like that's how you get noticed. That's how you get seen. So you got to use it. But how I dove in was this website. My first ever course that I invested in myself about marketing was an online course. I think it was called Artist Works. Artist Works, and it had a full course and teaching you how to do Facebook, how like the ins and out of Facebook, how to do YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. And so through that course, I went through it. They gave me all the information I needed, like how to create my cover page, how to put my bio, how to write my bio in each of these things. So that was the first ever course I went through to really learn about social media. And then after that, I just took off of just like diving deeper into, okay, who can I learn from that's teaching YouTube? And those people were Sunny Leonarduzzi. That was Amy Schmidt-Tower. Now her name is Amy Landino. She got married recently. Roberto Blake. What's another guy? Tim something. I can't forget, but I can't remember, but I started following those YouTube cats and following what their advice was on YouTube for free at first. And then I absorbed all of their content because I wanted to make sure that I was dotting my I's and crossing my T's with YouTube. So I would say first, dive deep into things that are free. If you can't afford or invest in yourself, with some courses that really teach you the ins and outs of all these platforms. Of course, over time, the platforms evolve and change, but the core is still there of the content that they teach.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because when you think about it from the perspective of a jazz musician, what do all great jazz musicians tell you that you should do to become a great jazz musician? Listen
exactly
to people,
listen to the greats,
see what they're doing. How does
absorb it.
Yeah, how does Freddie approach a 2/5? How does Woody approach a 2/5? Right, and then you transcribe it, and I love the saying that Clark Terry has, which is imitate, assimilate, innovate. Yeah, so you just do what they do. Then when it becomes part of you and you can do it naturally, then you can start to add your own unique flavor to it.
Exactly. It's approachable. It's applicable to all things in life. Just those three words.
Yeah. I mean that and one other saying kind of have been my motto for a long time. Besides the Clark Terry one, the other one is how you do anything is how you do everything. Because there's just a basic way that you get good at stuff, And so once you figure that out, then it's just a matter of just plug and play, and just, you have to
Yeah.
learn the specifics, certainly, there are little things that make each thing unique, but the fundamentals, whether you want to be a great trumpet player or a great, digital marketer or a great football player, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You still have to go through that same process.
Yes. You still got to learn. You still got to put in the work and invest in yourself. Like,
Yeah.
What allowed me to go further than I ever thought I could. I never thought I would get anywhere close to the following that I have now, even on TikTok. But investing in yourself and taking the time to really study is extremely important for anyone's success. So whatever you have to do to get that bread, to learn, it doesn't matter who didn't teach it to you. It's your responsibility. I made it my responsibility to learn more about marketing, learn more about sales, learn more about who is my audience avatar. Who am I trying to get their attention? Like, who am I trying to get?
Yeah.
And so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
research.
Yeah, and then again, I mean, just like to pull a musical analogy, it's like you got to know your audience. If you're going into a R&B club, you're not going to try and play the Hindemith and expect to get
Exactly.
a good response. Right. And so you got to know who you're speaking to and be able to speak their language, and just so for people who maybe don't know. So here are some stats for Mr. Aaron Washington on his YouTube channel alone. So as of today, 31.9 thousand subscribers, 1.94 million lifetime views. In the last 30 days, you had 74.7 thousand views.
Oh, wow.
So, so if you're thinking about this, right, if you're an educator, or if you're trying to get your material, your content out, it's numbers, because all those numbers represent a person who's heard what you have to offer. So do you want to be in front of 75,000 people in a 30-day period? Or do you not want to? So, and unless you're on tour with a major act, which nobody's on tour with a major act right now, you're not reaching that number of people. So this is a way of getting what you have to say, either through your voice or through the voice of your horn. This is a way of getting people out there. So I think that this is something that if you're serious about what you're doing, this is stuff you gotta start considering.
Exactly, and I would say, like, TikTok is probably the way to go. Like, first there's YouTube, second is TikTok. Because YouTube, only because Google is the largest search engine in the world, and Google owns YouTube. So what's the first place people go to search anything?
They're on Google.
They're on Google. So that's the first place you need to be. And even though I do more educational content, at first my focus wasn't that. At first I was just going to just be on YouTube to play covers and really put my music out there. So the strategy to do that is to do what most musicians hate doing, and that's cover songs.
Yeah.
And the reason why they should do that is because people are already searching for those players. They're already searching for those musicians. You just have to be the one that comes up. And they're like, oh, what's this? So that's one way to really get into the system of YouTube. If you're not really an educator and you don't really want to teach, then cover songs or doing different arrangements of covers of popular musicians or musicians that are similar to your style. Pick like 5 musicians that are similar to your style, do cover songs of those musicians, and even be up on the of pop culture. So what's happening in the news, what's happening in gaming, what's happening in celebrity news, and try to figure out how can I tailor my message to what's happening right now. And you will show up in the search results of Google or of YouTube, and that's how you grow. That's how I grew. I mean, and most of the content I create as an educator is more evergreen. And so when I talk about evergreen, that's more content that will be here forever from the end of time. So forever, someone's going to search how to play the trumpet. Like that's going to always be the case. Someone's always going to look how to make a sound, how to improve my range, how to put a horn together, all these things. So first, you got to know your audience. Second, you got to know what they're searching for, and create that content as much as you can, because the more you show up, the more people will recognize your brand, and the more subscribers you have, the more views, the more shares, the more money you'll get. Yeah. So, but it all starts with knowing who your audience is first. If you don't, then you're just spitballing. You don't know. If you don't know who your audience is, then it's going to be really hard to grow.
Yeah, very true. And so let's talk about how your videos have evolved over time. I mean, obviously there's been a change in production quality over time. Yeah, so that's always important. But more importantly, the content. I mean, the more you go about things, you've gotten so much more polished in your presentation, and what are some of the milestones, if you had to think back and go, okay, well here's some of the realizations that I made that really created a dramatic shift for the better in the way I've approached my educational videos.
It was more so each and every video I had to make sure that it was better than the last, even if it was just something small. Like, for instance, it matters. The first 3 seconds of a video matter. So the first 3 seconds are important. The first 15 seconds are important. So over time, if you watch my content from beginning to now, you'll notice that I don't do intros anymore, or my intro is really short, because I've noticed in my analytics that people drop off as soon as that video hits. As soon as they watch the video, that's when it drops off. But so I've made my intro shorter so they can get to the content faster. Right. And that helps with watch time, because that's what YouTube wants. They want that watch time. They want people to stay on the platform. Another thing is, I wanted my videos to be an experience. When I first started, I wanted the things people rag on the virtual, where it's not the same as being in person. Yeah, but there's advantages to having a video. There's advantages to having things on the screen, something visual. Like, you can't do that one-on-one in person. You can't have a graphic pop up to really hone in on the concept that you're teaching. Right. You might use an analogy. You might use, some things to give them some imagination, but to actually have that imagination manifest on the screen, that's what video. That's the pros of video. So I want to make sure that the experience was of high quality. Now, when I first started, watch time was not a thing. So it was really about who can make the shortest video and have the most content in that video. Because before, I was watching YouTube, growing up, and people would just there was so much fluff, like 15, 20 minutes, and you only have like 10 seconds of what I actually want, that bit of information that I need. And so I was like, I don't want that for my audience. I want to get straight to the content as soon as possible, so they can get up and do other things and go on with life and stuff like that. So um, that was the beginning stages. Now YouTube has switched their their focus to watch time. They want people to stay on longer. So you'll notice that more videos are 8 minutes, 15 minutes, or people are doing more live streams. There's a reason for that. I've done more live streams. There's a reason for that. I want people to stay on the platform longer. The reason why, YouTube pushes that more. The more people watch for, the more your video will be pushed out to even more people. So there's ways to do that without doing a live stream. There's ways to do that with maybe like a playlist. So you have like a series, like think of it as Netflix. Like you could have 10 2-minute videos and just put them boom, 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 all in the playlist. So the person has to go from one video to the next. Like I need more information. So that's one way to do it without doing live streams. But you can also do it through how you edit the video. And so I've studied and watched and been more aware of how I do my cuts, like how, because the human attention span is now 7 seconds. So I make sure that my cuts, whatever I'm talking about, was 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Was 3 seconds, and I made sure that I had something different or something on the screen that popped up or something happened, maybe every 3 seconds or maybe every 6 seconds, to make sure that they stayed on the video longer and they didn't get bored.
Yeah.
So over time, I just paid more attention to my analytics. I paid more attention to what YouTube really wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's crazy. Now YouTube is trying to be a TikTok, and now they're promoting shorter videos. So now we're back to what I first started with, which is crazy.
Yeah. It's the craziness. I mean, I remember when I was running my martial arts school, I was at a conference and Gary Vee was one of the speakers there, and got to hang out with Gary. Yeah, that was a trip, man. But they were saying, you got to use Facebook, you got to use videos, but you need to keep your videos, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Don't go over 3 minutes. And so I had that beat in my head, and I was producing all this really dense content. And now Facebook doesn't want you to put a video up that's less than 3 minutes. They want you to stay on that platform. And so it's understanding then how the algorithms work and that they're constantly changing. And if you want to stay on top of the game, you've got to be flexible in the approach. So, it's nuts, man. It's a full-time job. I might have to hire you to be my new social media manager. So get my numbers up, man. Shoo. But your approach, I love your approach, right? Like right now, what you're doing, this is education, and if you're hearing me, you're on this podcast, but you're teaching me, you're teaching all of the listeners ways to do social media, how to make it work, how to make it. How to monetize it, basically. So you're giving a really good lesson, and you're doing it in such a natural, unassuming way, and that is, that's the teacher in you coming out, and that's what I got from your videos, in terms of trumpet playing. That, like your approach to playing the blues. It was just that was the first video I saw, and I don't know how I stumbled on it. I was looking for something, and it's like that came up like, and I just clicked on it, and you get down those rabbit holes and you just don't know how to get out of them. But I was like, wow, this is such a really nice approach. It's not heady. Because you could really just talk over people's head, but it also wasn't talking down to people. It was just such a nice, easy progression that any trumpet player, whether they were in 5th grade or whether they're 50 years old and just trying to learn how to play the blues, that you gave them some really actionable stuff. in a way that just completely made sense and was not intimidating. So,
Nice.
how did your approach to improvisation get formed, and then how does your approach to teaching? How have you seen that as being a benefit to other players?
Um, Only because I've developed that that way of teaching through my education at Illinois State. They teach you good pacing. Before, my pacing was terrible. I was way too slow. I talked too slow. So, and I was teaching kids, so you can't use big words. Like you can't like puff up your ego and use all these big words with these kids, and they don't understand what you're talking about. So they made us write scripts um, for each and every lesson, and you had to follow the script from beginning to end, and you could not sway from the script until the master teacher said it was great, it was okay, and then you can use bullet points. But that's how I developed my skill of just being able to talk where to speak and to teach where you're at. Um, and that took a lot of practice. Took a lot of failures and really bad lessons during my education. Um, but yeah, that's where I gained that skill. With improvisation, I didn't go to Illinois State isn't known for jazz. So most of the stuff that I've learned was from books or things that I've searched. And then just like putting pieces together and taking the things I liked and taking the things I didn't really particularly like. And one of the reasons why people are so afraid of improvisation is that they're afraid of the theory. They're afraid of um, what's a 2-5-1, what's all these scales, what's all these chords. So I decided not to go down that rabbit hole because that's a rabbit hole. Like trying to figure out what scale do I use, what's the note choice I should make, what's the correct note or the correct scale should I play over this chord. My thinking was like melody. Like, can you make a simple melody out of a simple 5 note scale? And if you can do that, then you can improvise. Anyone can improvise. And it was like there's simple melodies everywhere around us. There's jingles, there's cartoon theme songs. So um just or there's the music in and of itself. You can take the melody from the the jazz lineage and just how can we improvise just using the melody and what it has to offer. Forget all the chords and the the crazy concepts that people try to teach. Let's try to imitate what the melody is doing and see how many variations can we make through that. So that's my approach now, and I think it works for people that are new to improvisation.
Yeah. Well, improvisation, like you said, that's a scary word for most people.
Yeah.
Eh, and the truth of the matter is, we're always improvising. Maybe when you're reading down the chart, you're not improvising, but we're always improvising in life. I mean, the fact that
Yeah.
we're having a conversation right now, conversation is improvisation. You know,
Exactly.
and when people say that they're not creative, then I either have to laugh at them or I have to smack them upside the head. I can't decide which one. But it's the you set yourself up. You have this mindset that you can't do it, so therefore you're never going to be able to do it because
Right.
you've already set up the mental barriers to it. So this approach of making it friendly and making it kind of like almost like baby steps. Like, okay, well, if you can you can play this, now let's just change this a little bit and let's change this a little bit, and then getting people
Hmm.
on the roll. It's much less intimidating than, okay, well, on this chord you have to play, here are your 5 scale choices, and then you get it. Okay, now we're going to do this altered dominant. Now we're going to do the tritone substitution, and then you're pulling your hair out.
Right.
And I
And
think
then you gotta do it in all 12 keys. Like No.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the thing that sometimes gets lost is the fact that you're trying to create a melody, and
Yeah.
people are just trying to just spew out all of this music theory instead of how can I create a melody. Like, yeah, I
Hmm.
can't remember who I heard say this is like when you're improvising, someone should be able to like whistle what
Exactly.
you do.
Yeah.
If they can't whistle or sing it, or sticks in their head, then you're not really creating anything of impact. It may be technically great, but it hasn't reached anybody on an emotional level.
Mm. Yeah. So melody, yeah, melody is important. So melody and rhythm, because I think the more I've taught students of all ages, rhythm is the biggest hurdle for a lot of musicians. Forget the notes, like just being able to play something in time is a huge. If you can do it, it's a huge achievement. Now just add notes to that. Add notes to that rhythm, and it doesn't even have to be all 12 notes. It can be just be one note, two notes, three notes. And because I much rather hear a solo that's rhythmically and in the groove, rhythmically sound and in the groove, than something that has a lot of notes and doesn't really speak to me really. And that's just me personally. But um, but again, like making a melody, recreating another melody is probably the most difficult thing anyone can do. That's why I decided to let that be the focus, because if you can create a melody, then you're on your way. Now if you use licks, licks are cool. That's a great way to sound great right away, like to use licks and just like plug them in, and that's great. And that's how I learned how to play. That's how a lot of people learn how to play. It's just like put this lick here, put that lick there, try to put them together, see if they connect, and and you'll sound authentic a lot faster. But I remember watching this Miles Davis interview, and he said uh, being original is difficult. It's hard. Um, when people try to copy, that's the lazy way, because it takes a lot to try to come up with something original, come up with something that's of your own. But um, so yeah, melodies is important. Um, and that's kind of my strong suit. That's my strong suit. Now trying to play fast and constant eighth notes, that's something I'm working on. That's my Achilles heel, and we need that. We still need that type of playing, but in the midst of that, we still need melody. So that's my approach.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's when I go back again to my previous existence, when I was running martial arts school. That was one of the things I was tried to teach to my students, and particularly the ones that were I was grooming to be teachers themselves, coaches themselves, is that everybody learns differently, and everybody has different things that will speak to them. So there
Mm-hmm.
is no one right way. The right way to teach someone is the way that they understand, and
Yeah.
that's it. And that sometimes that was always a sticking point, because being the highest ranked teacher, the master or whatever, they people were like, well, I only want to learn from Jose. And like, well, I'm actually probably not the best person to teach you, because, there are other people that, you may be able to connect with a little bit better. They're going to be able to explain things in a way, if they're much younger, maybe one of my 20-year-old teachers, or, there's going to be able to work better with them, as opposed to, for me, I'm going to be better working with someone who's closer to my age or a little bit older. So, understanding how to speak to people is so critical. And that I think sometimes we get caught up with, like, well, I only want to study with Bobby Shue, or I only want to study with Vinny DiMartino, or these you take like the upper echelon of teachers that are out there. It's like if it's not them, then I'm not going to be able to learn anything. Well, it's like no, depending on where you are, there's something you're going to be able to learn, and I'm a firm believer that you can learn something from everybody.
Yes.
So when you're approaching that content and you're putting that content out, I have to assume that as much love as you're getting, that you also get some haters. So how do you deal with the haters when you're just doing your thing?
Believe it or not, like it's not really that many haters. Like during like these 4 or 5 years that I've done it, the positive really like exponentially outweighs the negative. I with every negative, I get maybe 100 positive. So I would, for those that are afraid of all the haters or people that might say something about you, I would say don't worry about them, because you're not the people that you're reaching. But how have I dealt with it? I've dealt with it in a few different ways, and I've dealt with it by uh, fire with fire sometimes. And so if they say something crazy to me, I'm like, okay, I'm not just going to let you punk my channel. This is my channel. This is my community. So I'm gonna give you the business, and then I'm gonna block you. So that's one way. If you get haters, just block them. You know, another way is to ignore them, like just block them, and if you see something that's not really encouraging or positive, or it doesn't seem like they're trying to uh, give you critique in a constructive manner, just block them. Just ignore them. Like that's the extent of what you need to do when it comes to this thing. When I first started the Black Trumpeter YouTube channel, I got a ton of people saying like, "Oh, you're racist," like because what if someone said the white trumpeter? That would that make them racist? How could you say? How could you be that? Or I would get the opposite, where there's other Black trumpeters or whatever, like, you're not the only Black trumpeter, like who are you? Like, so there's there's people on either side. And so I even got I got blocked because of they just didn't like that I called myself the Black trumpeter. So I just had to find another outlet to share my content. I just had to find a different way to do that. So if they felt threatened or felt like my name, push some buttons, I was like, well, that's fine. I'll just find another spot to share my content. So that's one way I've dealt with it, is just going elsewhere. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think that that's one of the things that blocks so many of us from doing whatever it is that we want to do, is the fear of the criticism, the putting you don't want to put yourself out there because somebody might say something that hurts my feelings. Not I'm not going like saying like a snowflake sort of thing, but we really have a fear of being seen as a failure, being picked out as I'm a phony, whatever it is, so there's all these different fears that exist in our minds that, our defense mechanism is, well, instead of facing it or putting myself out there, then I'll just ignore it and I'll just won't do it, because then if I don't do it, then nobody can critique me. And that's not what we say to ourselves. We come up with some other kind of line of crap that we believe, but ultimately that's what it is. It's like, I don't believe I can do this, or I believe that people are going to laugh at me, so I'm going to make an excuse and just not do it.
Yeah. What you said about people thinking that you're a phony or whatever, I dealt with that a lot. And if people follow me, they'll see months go by and I haven't uploaded a thing. And most of that was because of imposter syndrome. Like, you know, I felt like, man, who am I? Like, who am I? I'm not Wayne Bergeron. I'm not all these great trumpet players out here. I'm not Wynton Marsalis. So who am I? What will make people listen to me? And so I kind of switched my approach. And before answering your question about my approach to content, I made it a commitment to make it okay to mess up. And I'm going to show you my mess ups, and I'm not going to apologize for it. You know, like if I miss a note, then that's just what happens. I mean, I take that kind of same approach with performing. But, you know, I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm Mr. Perfect. Like I have bad days just like everybody else. And so Gary Vee says it best, where if you air out your own dirty laundry, no one can hold that against you. So that's the best way. Like I feel like a lot of people don't put themselves out there because they are afraid of getting negative feedback or somebody finding something out about them, or you know. But it's 2020. If they can find it, it's just a matter of time, you know. Yeah. So you might as well put it out yourself and say, this is me, and so be it.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's that whole thing of, like you're saying, you know, well, you're not Wynton, you're not Wayne, who am I? But it goes back to that thing that everybody will hear a message a little bit differently. And that's a big part of this podcast, is that, you know, the reason behind it is that a lot of people, if they went to an event like an ITG, or, you know, they go to a concert or something like that, and there's a, you know, great trumpet player there, they're afraid to go talk to them. You know, it's like, well, you know, how in the world is Wynton or John Faddis, or, you know how am I going to ever talk to them, because, you know, they're this, you know, this person way up there, when they're just like you. I mean, they're just a better trumpet player, you know. Right. But they're still humans, and they still have a desire and a need to connect. And it's that, you know, who am I to do this? You know, who am I to create this podcast? Well, I'm just somebody who's not afraid to you know, ask somebody, hey man, would you mind spending an hour or so with me just talking about music and life, and, you know, just being real with it. So and it helps people to feel closer then to people. And I think that's the big thing, is that you know, we have to find the people that we identify with. And sometimes the bigger the name, the bigger the celebrity, the more fear we have. It's like, well, there's no way I can ever play like Wynton, so why would I even try? But, you know, if they listen to, you know, to you or to me, or to their high school band director or whatever, it's like, well, okay, well, yeah, they're better than me, but, you know, I see the possibility. You know, I see how I might be able to gain some skill, and I might be able to get closer to what they do. And then it becomes stepping stones, and then, you know, that gets you closer to where you ultimately could be.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said before, it's like we all have there's value in everyone. Like, you can take things from everyone. So just knowing that you have something, that we all have something that someone else doesn't have, and you know how to do it. So if you know how to do it, then that gives you value. Yeah. No matter how small or how big. And I have coached some people into you know, the social media thing. And I tell them all the time, like, just write out everything you know how to do, every small little thing that you know how to do, because whatever that thing is, someone else has no idea how to do it. Absolutely none. And they have no strategy on how to attain it.
Yeah.
So if someone is like, I have nothing to offer, that's BS, because you have plenty to offer. You don't have to be some big name to offer value to someone.
And then, the truth of the matter is, you take any of the big names, there was a point when they weren't a big name.
Exactly. We all start from zero.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I think, is the most encouraging thing. But of course, me, I'm kind of weird, and I do like a challenge. I'm lazy. I'm this really weird dichotomy. It's like I'm
Right.
really lazy, but that's why I push myself, because I know if I don't push myself, I'm going to be really lazy. So
Right.
I keep myself on the grind, and I keep challenging myself to learn something new and to push boundaries. But it's that constant reminder that, you're going to suck at it until you get it. And then when you get it, you're going to go, what was I sweating over? This
Right.
is easy, but it's just getting over the hump to do that.
Yes. The first step is always the hardest.
Yeah,
step.
absolutely. I did see that you have a new project coming up, the improvisational trumpeter.
Yeah.
It's kind of ambiguous in your marketing, little teasers, a holistic approach for beginners. What can you share about that?
It was just, it stemmed from this group on Facebook, the Jam of the Week group. And I would just scroll and just scroll and scroll and scroll and never see a trumpet player on there. Never. It's usually like a saxophone, guitar, keyboard, but never a trumpet player to put themselves out there and improvise, including myself, But I I want to create this course to encourage more trumpeters to improvise. And when I say a holistic approach, that's just my approach that I've taken to try to balance all the things that we have to do as trumpet players and mix that with improvisation. Like, yes, we have to do long tones, we have to do flexibility, scales, articulation, all these things. But how can I fit improvisational concepts into all of those components as a trumpet player and as a daily routine or method? So that's my goal with this project, is to put what I've been doing over the last maybe 6 years, and like open the world up to, you don't have to just play from the Clark book. You can take elements from what you're learning, if you're learning a tune, and let that be your technical exercise, or let you playing the bass notes to try to get your bearings of the tune. Let that be your long tone studies. So just being creative in that sense.
Yeah.
And then another holistic approach is the mental game. Mentally, we as trumpet players, just as people in general, we self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of believing in yourself. And belief, I feel like, is the greatest superpower that anyone can have. If you believe that you can do something, you can do anything. So I wanted to put the mental and like a meditative thing in there to really teach people to just relax and just say that you can do this. Whatever it is that's in front of you, you can do it and get past it. So
Yeah.
that's the overall approach.
That's great. Yeah. Holistic is a big word in my world, and the way I explain it to people is what it means. It means it's the whole, and you can't separate a part without it affecting the entirety. So when we think about the holistic approach to trumpet playing, obviously it's your your ability to play. Your equipment is another thing that is a factor. But I think often the thing that people lose sight of the fastest is the mental aspect. Yeah. Because you can have all the technique in the world, you can have the best equipment in the world, you can have had the best teachers in the world, but if you've got a disconnect up here, if you've got a mental block, if you're dealing with fears or anxieties or things like that, then you're never going to be able to get the music out. I actually taught a workshop a couple of times on mindfulness for musicians, and that was the big takeaway that I tried to get people to understand, is that music is a form of communication, and that you're trying to get people to feel something. So feelings aren't rational. Feelings are that's our emotions. So you got to get that rational portion of your brain out of the way, and you've just got to let the music come from your heart, and then let it come out the horn, and just do it real. I mean, just be real with it. And like you're saying, like if you make a mistake, if you hit a clam, you hit a clam. But people 9 times out of 10 don't remember that if the performance was genuine. If they're if they felt it, then like you listen, like we have 2 of my favorite trumpet players, Freddie and Woody. You listen to the recordings, and there are notes that they did not intend to play. That they did not intend to play that note, but or at least play it the way they played it. You'll hear a crack, you'll hear a creak, or things like that. But there's so much intensity, there's so much fire, or there's so much passion in what they're playing that just becomes part of the joy of it. It's like it's what makes it real. And if you're looking at it from an analytical standpoint, you're going, well, that wasn't a pristine performance. But when you're looking at it as in its entirety, it's phenomenal. So I think it's getting out of our own head gets the music out of our heart.
Yeah, and even Miles Davis, like when I listen to a lot of his stuff, it's just like I can't imagine the music without that that frac.
There's a Spain, some of the stuff that so it makes it real. So that's cool. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that course looks like, and I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to benefit from that. Do you find that like educators who maybe are not particularly proficient in jazz studies or the approach to jazz or the trumpet are utilizing some of your tutorials? Are you a resource for people?
Yeah, humbly I can say there's been a lot of people reaching out to say like, hey, like even students of band directors say like, my band director uses every single day. We watch this video every day, or we've used this in class as an activity. Band directors that contact me like, thank you for making this video. Like we do this on a daily basis, or it has helped my trumpeters. I'm not a trumpet player, so this is a great resource that they've been able to use. And that's I mean, I've reached the goal. Like I've reached what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
And that was just to allow people to have more fun with the trumpet. Learn the things that you need to learn, do the things that you need to do, so you can play music as the best way you can and have fun doing it. Yeah. Because it's like I've been on so many gigs, and people in the audience come up to me and say like, "Oh man, I used to play the trumpet, but it was something about my band director, or I think it was really hard, and I just decided not to do it. But now I'm inspired, and I still have it, and I want to bring it out." And I've encountered so many people like that. I'm like, there has to be a way to allow the trumpet to be more accessible to people. And so that has been my goal.
Yeah. Well, that's a great goal. Although some people would argue that the last thing the world needs is another trumpet player, but
I say they're wrong.
Yeah,
we need more trumpet players.
Yeah. Well, there are not enough gigs for us as it is. So no, that's good. I mean, you do want to share the love, and it's something. Yeah. It's something that has been so influential, and defining in your life and my life. All the people that have been guests on this show, that's why they're here. They're trumpet players. So, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. So why would I not want someone else to potentially have some of the same joy and same experiences that I've had as, because I'm a trumpet player?
Yeah.
So
Feel the same way.
awesome. All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears here, and the ending portion of our show is a rapid fire round. This is brought to us by our good friends at Robinson's Remedies, Kenny Robinson. So if your chops need a quick refresh, they're the guys to check out. So this is the officially renamed Robinson's Remedy rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want your quickest response. And we're going to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who's the biggest influence in your life that is not a trumpet player?
Eric Thomas, E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher.
All right. What is your favorite book?
The Inner Game of Tennis.
All right. That's a good book. What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
The Last Avatar.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. If you weren't a trumpet player, what would you want to be?
Something that has to do with technology, like or gaming, like a game designer.
Okay. What's your favorite drink?
If you're talking about alcoholic, it's Jack and Coke. If you're talking about just wholesome beverages, the orange cream sundae, not sundae, but shake, orange cream shake from Arby's.
Oh, okay.
That's really good. I'm probably the only one keeping them in business because I never see anyone there.
Yeah, and I just saw that they are offered to buy Baskin Robbins for like 11 billion or something like that.
$11 billion. Who would have thought?
That's a whole lot of shakes, man. That's a whole lot of shakes.
$11 billion worth.
Yeah. All right. You could have a dinner party and invite any three people in the entire world can come to that party. Who would you want to have there?
Jeff Bezos, Gary Vaynerchuk, and I'm blanking. Like the game designer that has created our favorite games in Nintendo, like Super Mario Brothers, Shishiro Hajuya. I'm messing up his name, but
okay, we got that. We got that.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, cool. All right. So you're going to have three other guests, but they can be three people from history. Any three people that are no longer with us?
Charlie Parker, Malcolm X, and who else? I would say, that third one's is a killer. I would say, if he's dead or not, Tupac.
All right. he's hanging out with Elvis somewhere, probably.
Right.
All right. Lacquer plated or raw?
Oh man, neither.
None of the above. All right.
None of the above.
What's your favorite quote?
Favorite quote. It's a tie between "Information Changes Situations" by Eric Thomas and "Go Confidently in the Path of Your Dreams" or something like that by Henry David Thoreau.
Okay. What's your greatest fear?
Greatest fear? Not reaching my full potential.
All right. You could be granted one superpower. What would you want it to be?
I would like to. It's a toss-up between something kind of realistic and then an actual superpower. Superpower would be to slow down time. Now, if I was doing something realistic, I would say more belief in myself. Yeah. Like if that was a superpower.
All right. What aspect of trumpet playing do you feel is the most overrated?
Gear. Okay. Because if you're broke, it doesn't matter what you have. You just make it work.
There you go. And what aspect do you think is the most underrated?
Patience.
Okay.
If you don't have patience, then you rush everything. You develop bad habits, and yeah, you make trumpeting really hard for yourself. So patience is very important and underrated.
All right, cool. All right. You are given the ability to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about music. What would it be?
About music, I would say don't be afraid to ask for lessons.
Okay. All right. And while you're back there, you're going to give yourself one piece of advice about life. What would that be?
It's all about life. You can do it. You can do anything, just like them Adam Sandler movies. That one dude that screams, "You can do it!" Right. Just having more belief, because again, if you have the belief that you can do it, then you can do anything.
Yeah. All right. Good. And finally, what do you want your legacy to be?
In the short term, I want to be known to have to allow people to make the trumpet more accessible to everyone, to make it a easier process to learn. And then in the long term, I would like musicians to, or artists in general, to I want to say that I've impacted how they go about life, as far as sales, marketing, and putting themselves out there, just in general.
All right. Well, cool. Well, yeah, Aaron, you've been doing a phenomenal job. I've been watching your progress, and I am certainly trying to learn as much as I can from you, because you're doing some great stuff, and I have a lot to learn, and I'm not above asking for help. So
That's dope.
yeah, I really appreciate you taking time, and I just wish you nothing but the absolute best success in your future endeavors, your new coursework and things like that. You've got a very, very strong gift for teaching and sharing, in giving people the confidence to go on and reach higher levels in their music and in their life. So I applaud you for that, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more from you in the future.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
All right. So thanks for spending your time with me today, and make sure you check out Aaron and all the great stuff he's got going on. There are going to be links down in the show notes, so you can subscribe, follow him on all of his social media platforms, and make sure that you share and like this episode. And as always, folks, peace and slide grease. We are out. Hey, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating connection through our mutual love for the trumpet life. I hope that you learned a few things about today's guest and had some laughs along the way. Don't forget to give us a review. We love those 5-star ratings. And please share this podcast with your friends. We want to see our hang grow for show. Have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest? Hit me up at thetrumpetgurus@gmail.com. Our opening theme was written and performed by Lexi Signor, and all other music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. So in the words of W.C. Handy, life is like a trumpet. If you don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out. So go out there and let your trumpet sound. And I'll see you at the next hang.